In this recording, I like to discuss a few things with respect to your results of the discovery process, which is populated under inventory. Okay, and in particular, I like to focus under the APIs, right? And again, the APIs page under inventory to present to you all the APIs that the platform has discovered, along with its pertinent metadata. Okay, along with its pertinent metadata. Okay. Good chunk of what you see right here is configurable, right? And in particular, I'm interested in the configuration that is available for discovering APIs. And why am I interested in this? I'm interested in this because this type of knowledge is going to give me the ability to answer questions such as why is the API present in my inventory page when it shouldn't be? Or why is my API not present in the inventory page when it should be? Okay, so this type of questions you should be able to answer by inspecting configuration, right? Or inspecting the traffic you're receiving. We're going to talk about those. Okay, so for starts, we're going to go under settings because that's where the configuration is, and I'm going to show you what's the permission that you require in order to change the discovery configuration. Okay, so for start, I like to go under user management. I'm going to go under roles, and I like to show you the permission. Okay, so I can create the role. I can inspect one of the existing roles. Just for the record, I'm an admin right here. Okay, so I'm gonna just edit the admin role so that I can show you the permission. The permissions you're interested in is under inventory settings. It's right here. Okay, and what I'm interested in is I like to come in here and make sure that my discovery configuration, it's either read so that I'm able to view it, or it's read write, which means I'm able to change it, modify it. Okay. In my case, it's read write, so I'm able to modify it. So I'm going to cancel all that. And I'm going to navigate back under discovery configuration. All right. I'm going to start with this advanced error parsing. Okay. Not because I like to explain what advanced error parsing does, but because this gives me an opportunity to explain to you guys that if you have an API that all the requests are returning an HTTP status code that is in error, that is a 400, 500 type of an HTTP status code, we don't record those APIs in the inventory page. Okay, that's not always true. It's the most common behavior. Okay. That's not always true. And I'm going to show you when it's not true. Okay. I'm going to navigate under the policies because this is where you're going to find the different findings and the different incidents that the platform is able to detect out of the box. And if I search for error, I'm going to find a couple of findings that pretty much identify to me that hey, I got an error, and I return back a server error stack trace, which contains details about my program. That's about my API pretty much, right? My software. I may identify technology and so on. That's bad. Okay. So the other one says, hey, you're returning an error response, and within it you include sensitive data. I don't know, sensitive data could be an SSN, it could be a credit card, and so on. These are sensitive data. Okay. You shouldn't be communicating those back in an error response. Why do you do that? Okay. And again, I'm talking rhetorically here, right? I'm referring to the developer who actually did this and probably did it in error. Okay, some data leakage of some sort. Okay, so if we have error responses, we have an API call with an error responses that triggers one of these findings. Well, guess what? The API is going to be in your inventory list, and the actual findings is going to be under your security section. Okay. So you can't have a finding without a finding or an incident that applies to that API without having the API, right? So that's one of the reasons. Okay. There are incidents too that pretty much they identify spraying attacks or excessive attacks, right? Excessive data exposures or excessive modifications and so on, right? Or fuzzing attempts. These require tons of data, right? It doesn't really matter if your responses are all in error, right? We're going to trigger the corresponding incident, and we're going to also identify the corresponding API. Okay. because there's something going on there. But generally speaking, if the response is in error, we will not going to record that as an API. That's a general use case. All right, go back to discovery configuration. Um, then you have ignore path extensions, right? So everything that has a dot, if you have a suffix in your path that has a dot with an extension that matches any one of these 345 extensions, that's identified as much a file, right? Not as an API. In which case, we will not record that particular traffic as an API. Okay. Now, if you're doing something along those lines for your APIs, like you have a .pdf and your API suffix your path, and that's an actual API, well, guess what? You're going to have to come in here and delete this PDF or .txt or something along those lines, right? .json and so on, right? So you will have to come in here and modify this. Or if you like to ignore additional path extensions, you will have to come and add an extension. Okay? Keep that in mind. You will have to come and do this extra configuration. Again, using a dot with an extension as your API path, generally speaking, is not a good practice, right? But I've seen it happening. Like if you go to the Slack APIs, they use across the board, right? They have dots across the board. Okay, so who knows? Maybe that's what you want to do for your APIs. And again, Slack is not RESTful, right? Let's be clear. Ignore APIs by regular expression. There's another section that identifies, okay, we may have requests that match this particular rules, right, or regular expressions, in which case these are not actual APIs. And out of the box, and by the way, all the you see right here, this is the out of the box configuration. Okay, so out of the box, this particular regular expressions pretty much doesn't really matter what the host is, what the path is. If the method is head, options, trace, or connect, those will be ignored. They're not going to be identified as APIs. Okay, so and again, generally speaking, those methods on a RESTful server, they don't imply an actual operation, but metadata on the server and on the operations, okay, on the API operations. That's what they imply. So that's why they're ignored. If you'd like to add more, be my guest. You can select add regex, add the host regex, the path, the method, and if you have matches, you will see the APIs that match your conditions. And then you will be able to also select whether you would like to remove the existing APIs that had already been identified, or whether you would like to remove the existing findings and incidents that associate with those APIs. Okay, so you're able to clean up. Okay, you're able to clean up. All right. Last one before last is this empty request and response. What does it mean? It means that you have APIs that have empty requests and empty responses. The only thing you have is a host, a path, and nothing else. Is that an actual API? Yes or no? For the most cases, this is not an actual API. That's why you see ignore all APIs or all requests or all traffic, to be more accurate, where the request and the response are empty. Okay? The request and response are empty. So you want to ignore these. Okay? And there is for examples, which of course is disabled on my end, which is okay. Right? Last but not least, access logs integration. Access log. An access log is a log file usually applied to web containers, web servers, and so on, that the only thing they provide you with is a timestamp, the host, the path, the method, and an HTTP status code. And the HTTP status code sometimes cannot be trusted. Okay, cannot be trusted. So there are access log type of integrations if you have no other way to identify APIs. Okay. By enabling this smart learning, that means we will be checking those access log, and we're going to be taking them through our AI, right, in order to identify whether these are actually APIs or not. Okay. whether these access logs are actual APIs or not. If you turn this off, then every single entry in those access logs, it's pretty much an API, right? You don't want to do that because it's going to populate your APIs with extra APIs that are not actually APIs, right? So you want to keep this smart learning on, unless you really know what you're doing, right? But if you're taking this training, you probably not know what you're doing, right? So always consult with us, right? With your customer success rep, with your sales rep, and so on. Okay. And here's the tooltip that pretty much explains everything I just explained to you. Okay. All right. For the most part, this is what you can do in order to identify the different APIs, right? There is something else that's related. It's not actually pertaining to your discovery, but it's related, right? And what is that? That's the traffic audit. That's the traffic audit. Why? Because the traffic audit captures the actual traffic that the no-name platform or the platform receives, right? That's what a traffic audit does. Okay, so you can come in here. Yeah, let's dive in, and you can create a new traffic audit. You can give it a name. All right. So what is the audit duration? Right, and then you can start adding rules. What's the API path? Whether it contains is it the API path? Is it the host? What is it? Right. So you can come in here. You can create rules, and then you're going to start capturing traffic. You will start capturing traffic. And as you capture the traffic, you will be able to inspect the actual traffic, the actual request, and the actual response. Okay? So you're able to see what the heck is going on. So this audit traffic, the traffic audit is a pretty good tool, especially when you're dealing with a brand new integration. But furthermore, it's going to be able to capture, any API requests that you're sending that are not being identified as an API by the platform. Okay, so you can inspect it a bit closer. Okay, so that's a really useful tool. All right, we're not going to do it. We're just going to cancel it. And with this, my good people, we have concluded this recording.